technology, everything for the man.
Okay, so what I want to demonstrate for you today is CarPlay in action. So you can see here I've got the Pioneer 2-DIN head unit installed. This is an aftermarket faceplate that makes it entirely look almost factory fit. So the Pioneer head unit on its own is a great unit. Bluetooth controls, USB inputs. There is app radio, so you can actually link your apps and play music directly from the phone without any problems at all. What CarPlay brings to it is really the usability of the Apple interface, as well as things like maps, Siri integration and stuff like that. So what happens here is, I'm getting some messages, so hopefully they'll be useful in the demonstration. What happens here is we make the connection to the phone. So this Lightning connection is connected into USB 1 of the Pioneer. There are several USB ports, but on this one it must be USB 1. Once we initiate the connection, you get a CarPlay logo on the iPhone, and immediately the Pioneer unit will start to read from the phone, and it'll switch. Even though it knows what's going on here, it switches to CarPlay mode. So it's basically loading an app within the Pioneer stereo. So you can imagine how that would be in a factory fitted unit in, say, a Volvo or a Holden or any other car. Your normal stereo would work, but then when you connect your phone, if it's a CarPlay enabled radio, it would launch into a separate zone or a separate area in the controls. So every time you get the conditions, and you've got your standard now Pioneer Apple CarPlay interface. So you can see here we've got the home button, which takes us back to this screen at all times, a clock, signal for your cellular or mobile, and an actual mobile signal itself, in this case 4G. The standard apps that come with it are the 7, so the 4 across the top, 3 along the bottom, including the Pioneer, which basically just takes you back to your normal Pioneer car stereo. So we go back into CarPlay, we can load up Spotify, we can load up podcasts. We'll look through all those things shortly. I have just received a couple of messages. These are from my wife via her mother's phone with a shopping list this afternoon. So if we press on the messages.
Would you like to hear your unread messages or create a new one?
Unread messages.
You have 2 messages from Mrs. Carslag, Granny. Can you get pasta, 2 pommets of strawberry, bananas and get cheese cause they may want grated cheese on top. Oh, and a packet of the multi-pack of tiny teddies and squishy yogurts, 3x pear flavor, 1x strawberry and 2x apple banana. Would you like to reply?
Yes.
Okay, what do you want to say to Mrs. Carslag, Granny?
No probs, will do.
Your message to Mrs. Carslag, Granny, says, no probs will do. Ready to send it?
Send.
Okay, I'll send your message.
Now, obviously, I'm sitting stationary, so I could have done all of that while I'm driving. But while I'm stationary here, if I look now, you can see that the message was sent, no problems at all. So that's all happened completely hands-free. So let's open up the maps now. Interesting thing about the maps is immediately it uses your previous destinations and the like to determine actually where you might be going. But in this case, all we have to do is choose different destinations that we might have had, and let's just grab one here. Ralph Street, Alexandria. No idea what that is or where it is. You've got route options. Take that one there. Hit start. So I've got the guidance muted, and now immediately we get the basic navigation here. But also on the phone, we get the turn-by-turn instructions. So this is the 2-screen setup of CarPlay. Once you've got an app running here, if it's a true CarPlay app, it'll also run on the phone. I'll show you an example. So, wrong button, sorry. If we go to the home, when I launch the music app here, it launches the music app on my phone as well. So if I launch the podcast app, it will launch the podcast app on my phone. Okay, so it's doing all those things in sync. If you launch an app, and this has been a common question from people, if you launch an app that doesn't have CarPlay integration, so let's say Pocket Cast, a different podcasting app, and if we were to tune into a podcast here, let's play my own. So that's coming through, no problems at all.
Good day, good night.
But you'll see that there's no integration on the CarPlay. So there's nothing here showing us what's going on at all, except for the now playing information, which comes through just like it does on Bluetooth. It's sending the track title and album information. So there's no direct app integration though. So when we close that, we go to home, we can launch, for example, Stitcher Radio. Same thing as Pocket Casts, it'll load up, and it won't change the interface here other than the now playing. If I hit play on my phone, I've got that audio.
After the grand final all week.
And the now playing.
I have played that voice bite from you, I think, 100 times. It just makes, I reckon the bunnies should hear it.
So that's the basics of third-party apps, but obviously it really comes into its own when you're using an app that has the full integration. 3D maps. Now, one of the other questions I had, I'm going to end that route. While I'm driving, another question I had was, can you use the system regardless? Now, my phone is still usable. I wouldn't use it there. It'd be illegal for me to enter information there. But a passenger, if they were holding the phone, could easily enter information there, or they could, in fact, type and search for information, or I can use Siri.
Where would you like to go?
George Street, Sydney.
Getting directions to George Street, Sydenham.
Siri's not a fan of my voice, but you can see we're on our way. So once you get used to Siri, which is still something that I struggle with, then you really learn how to talk to her and how to give her the right directions to ensure that you get the right outcome from what Siri's doing for you. Obviously, Siri integration is great for messages. When we're on the home screen, being able to send and receive messages is fantastic. So in the native apps, this is obviously where I think you get a lot of the power, and you'll see more third-party apps come in, is when you start actually using things like the podcast app here, which is, as I said, it's bringing up information here on the phone as well as here, kind of second screen.
It's like that motivational.
I was hoping you'd play your...
Great thing about CarPlay for the music is you've got full iPod, kind of iPhone controls that very naturally used to. And one of the great things about that is actually finding tracks. So obviously, hopefully your passenger will do this more often, but when you're looking for, you've got, in this I've got scroll controls, but you can also go to the A to Z and really simply bring up letters. So you don't have to scroll through one by one these different albums and everything. You can just go letter by letter and find what you're looking for. Back onto the maps, one of the interesting things now, I obviously haven't driven a factory install in Volvo or anything like that, but on this Pioneer head unit, there's no multi-touch, so that most likely is this unit. Maybe not multi-touch enabled, because your zoom is a button and your navigate around the map are back to arrows. So not all that much of a problem, because you really don't go looking around a map like that with CarPlay. I think most of that kind of stuff is done in your phone, and it's very much using your phone's database. So places you've been, places you've recently searched for. If you search for a place in your phone and then come and plug into your car, it'll have all those places listed right there for you. Now the phone, again, Siri's here to help.
With whom would you like to speak?
Santa Claus.
Just to confirm, you'd like to call Santa Claus?
Yes. So Spotify is the only third-party app I've been able to locate thus far that is integrated with CarPlay, and the interface not dissimilar to what you see. Probably not, if I'm honest, a a perfect implementation at this point, but if you're a Spotify user, I don't use Spotify, so it's a tough one for me to test. But it's all here, as you can see. Brings down your music, your tracks, your playlist the way you want it to be, and bingo, you get the second screen experience here as well with CarPlay and Spotify. Now, I was asked, what else can the phone do while you're using CarPlay connected? So it's a calendar reminder. I've never seen one of those come up, so I can close that calendar reminder, and it closes it on both screens. So a real synchronicity between the screens when using CarPlay. Now, crucially, when you use the phone, if there's a third-party app running, it always goes back to home. So no matter what you're doing, if you were in a podcast and you come out of that and you go to do something else, it's always bringing you away from home. So if I was to open Instagram now, which I wouldn't do while I was driving, but just to demonstrate how it interacts, stereo keeps playing, the music's still coming via Spotify, but I'm now in Instagram on my phone, and there's no relativity between that and the head unit. Luke Hopewell, what are you doing? So basically, any of your media apps, whether it's TuneIn Radio, YouTube, as you play them, it's more like a Bluetooth or a USB connection. There's no screen integration other than now playing, and that's the way it operates.
It's the Property Investor's Edge. Search ANZ by Reed.
You would assume apps like TuneIn Radio will integrate very quickly with this to show you things like album art and stuff as you play through. One of the interesting things I discovered as I was trialing all this was a screenshot takes two screens. So the screenshot actually takes a screenshot of both screens, and when I open my photo library now, I will find the screenshot from the phone plus the screenshot from CarPlay. So both of those things come down, so you can see the full resolution as CarPlay could look. Now this is a resistive touch. It's probably the entry level of the three units that are available in Australia on Pioneer. Resistive touch. It's not a beautifully crisp screen, but it's fantastic for what you're doing. And I'm driving a Mazda 2 here, so this is pretty outrageous for this car. But you can tell by looking at the screenshot that you get from the unit, you can tell how amazing it would be on a brighter resistive touch screen, for example, or capacitive touch screen. When you're in your messages, interestingly, you can't read old messages.
To whom shall I send this?
I'm just going to go back to the list. So I can't read old messages here. So if I click on a contact, I can't read those messages.
What do you want to say to Greg? Rusty, Rust.
Just a test message, mate. You can ignore this.
Your message to Greg, Rusty, Rust says, just a test message, mate, you can ignore this. Ready to send it?
Send.
Okay, I'll send your message.
And you can see there that's gone through. Right at the top here, gone through on the screen. So there's no way to view old messages that have come through. There's only ways of composing new messages.
To whom shall I send this?
Cancel.
Okay, I won't send it.
All you can do is read new incoming messages or compose new ones. So you can't just go scrolling through your old messages and read one of them there.